Hello everybody, my name is Reginald Jaramillo and I'm in Dr. Gates' Spring 2019 Accounting and Research class. The research topic that I investigated was if the United States should be mandated to adopt IFRS, and if so, should there be a timeline under which this adoption is required. Why is this research topic important? Well, today, investors and creditors have the option to invest or lend money globally. Today, there are two, I would say, primary accounting standards utilized across the world. There is US GAAP, which has been around for a very, very long time and is highly esteemed and respected, and there is IFRS. Several countries have already migrated from their accounting standard to IFRS. Why is it important for there to perhaps be an adoption of the US adopting IFRS? Well, in order for investors and lenders to compare investing alternatives, they need to be able to compare companies operating no matter what countries they do business in or what accounting standards. Today, what has to happen is there has to be some convergence between IFRS back to GAAP, GAAP to IFRS, and there's a little bit more work required out of investors and lenders in trying to put together two similar sets of information to compare companies, if they're operating in different countries. So there's some specific alternatives to the United States just going ahead and adopting IFRS, and there's three of them in particular that I researched. The first alternative would be for the world to develop a whole new accounting standard. Now, while that sounds phenomenal and amazing, that probably is not going to be very feasible. There's already been a tremendous amount of work done in IFRS and US GAAP, and even convergence between the two of them, that developing a whole new accounting standard where all the countries could participate in is probably not going to happen. It's going to take too long, and there's already been a lot of migration to IFRS by other countries. The second alternative that I had was just for the US to continue to leverage GAAP. That's kind of what's happening today. Good and bad is there's still going to have to be some retranslation between US GAAP and IFRS and the US GAAP if we wanted to compare countries operating in these two, or companies operating in these two accounting standards. And the third alternative is to continue down the convergence, which has been going on for very, very, very many years between IFRS and GAAP. Now, there's been tremendous progress on that particular alternative. For many years, a lot of things have converged, and there are a tremendous amount of similarities between IFRS and GAAP. However, there are still a lot of significant differences that I outline in my paper. So, what are some of the pros and cons to the U.S. being mandated to adopt IFRS and having to do it in a certain time frame? Well, I think some of the cons would just be the time and the cost. A lot of the other organizations or companies that have migrated to IFRS, it's not just a simple accounting transition. It impacts all parts of an organization. It impacts HR, finance, operations, IT. Contracts have to be kind of written a certain way. Compensation agreements are written a certain way. IT systems have to be configured a certain way. Operational agreements have to be written a certain way. So it's not just a simple translation, and that does take time and money. So what was my final recommendation? My final recommendation is to kind of put together all these alternatives. That is to go ahead and continue down a lot of the great progress that's been made on the convergence. And then really though, I think the idea is to put a timeline on saying, all right, the convergence needs to be done in the next 10 years. And that means everything should almost be exactly alike. There should be a possible between both standards. And then if there's a transition to IFRS, it can be done a lot less impact on organizations because they're almost already there. Or there may not even need to be that transition, because the good thing about the U.S. keeping GAAP and some concerns would be, making sure the SEC and the FASB have governance and control, whereas if they go to IFRS, that has to be shared across the whole world. So those are some of the implications of the research project. This has been going on for quite some time. There's a lot of perspectives on this particular subject. But that was my perspective. So thanks for the time today.